If there was no death, we would have no religions, because they are all about handling the fact that we only have a limited space to live, and we have to live our life within the confines of that utter reality. I have talked to thousands of people who've been at the point of death, and I've heard their stories, and I've listened very carefully. I get asked questions, particularly by people who have no belief in God. What do I think happens in the afterlife? And I say to them, I don't necessarily believe in an afterlife. I believe in something that has continued since I was born, something that's been there with me as a child. And I have followed that all the way through, and that presence is always around in my life. Every day I pray to that presence, and I live with that presence, and I find my being through that presence. And I think that that has been so incredibly important. And yet I would like to say that in the facing of death, there is always the question of the fact that we need to love life. We need to be fantastically interested in what's going on around us. While I am saying these words, I'm looking at a beautiful bay, and understanding that is part of my journey. I have to give thanks for the beauty of the place and the utter wonder of the sunlight and the blue horizon and the water beneath us, and how beautiful it is. And who could ever want to let go of some of the deepest loves that we have in life? Why would you want to ever let go of that? I don't agree with people who want to gloss over the realities of life and death with some sort of glossy and, I think, ultimately unhelpful religious story. But in the Christ, I find somebody who enters death and does everything he can to face it. He doesn't really want to die. He's only a young man, a bit over 30 years of age, and he has to face that. And that's the tough thing for him in his life. And he has to do all he can. He's not happy about it in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he wants to move away from that moment. If it's possible, take this cup from me, he says. He doesn't want to die, nor does anybody in their right mind, I think, because you have to live life. You have to do that. We do not, for instance, know why anyone commits suicide. They may do it because of the fact that they are dying from some very painful illness, and that's pretty close to an explanation. But usually, even when a note is left, we don't know why the person has died, because it never reveals all of the details of the darkness that is overwhelming that person at that particular moment. And they do not know. I've had people say to me time and time again, why did they do it? Why did they do it? They had so much to live for. And I would say to them, yes, but the fear of living was harder for that person than the fear of death. And they had to do something about it to save any vestige of sanity that they had left. So I'm very, very sympathetic to people who have to take that ultimate decision for themselves, because it is very difficult to snuff out your own life, because it is so incredibly valuable to us, and it is a journey that is circumscribed for us in a way that does cause us fear at times. Anyone who tells me that they're not afraid of death, I don't believe, because I think everyone is in some way, because it's the demarcation line of our vulnerability. It's the one that really marks it out in the end for us, and it's the line of finitude. And I think, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn said about the line between good and evil passing through every human heart, so does the line between life and death pass through every human heart. And we all feel it, and it is there for us, and we never ever quite handle it. So I just share that with you. The ultimate question doesn't require ultimate answers, it just requires courage.